As you can see, I am back, and I'm not back empty-handed. I have been inactive for a long time, but I have brought with me today a new theoretical model about life that would be useful to all of us. It is something that I wish to teach, to share, because I truly do believe that by understanding it, you will be able to change your life in a better version. You will be able to find love for yourself and love for others. It will all begin with the theme of inputs. Inputs that are neutral at their basis and which can evolve into something incredible, into something that creates us humans, that creates life, that might even be the source of objects and space itself. For this specific model, and probably for most of my upcoming content, we will be using the model of space and time as the origins of everything. The space and time, they are such as inputs that create outputs by being together, and those outputs will be the inputs that affect us humans. Before we go in all of this, I want to mention the sources of my thoughts of what I'm about to share here. I've been collecting for a long time through all of my video baggage, all of my research. I've been collecting information from books. Often they are of a great quality. I haven't been reading any fantasy books for quite a long time, so all of them are great. No imaginary stuff, probably. Then we had podcasts. About half of them, by that I mean about 5 or 6, were from known channels with the same hosts, and about half of them were from unknown channels to me, from podcasts that I do not usually listen, but which had quite an interesting theme. It is also important to say that all of those podcasts that I listened to had different guests and quite of a high status. And in the same time, they all had interesting themes. And even though not all of the themes were interesting to me, I still took my time to listen even to the podcasts which were talking about things that I do believe may be beneficiary for you in some type of way. And out of the books and these podcasts, I also used quite a bit of my personal experiences from conversations with people that I had or my realizations. And these were about all of the sources that I used. Now, the model that I'm about to provide you is not proved. It may have some evidence because of all of the background that I used to make it, but just so that you are careful, make sure to think critically over everything that I'm sharing. I do believe that it will be valuable to you at the end, but just make sure that you really think through everything that I'm about to share. I have here a scheme of this specific model that I'm about to share. And first, some unrelated part that I want to mention, which may not directly be included into this input-output loop that I call, is our physical and spiritual side. Next to those, we have the factor of unpredictability. Our life is random, and we never know what could happen. We are already extremely lucky to exist at this very specific moment, to be able to breathe air, to have what we have right now, to be alive. Although I don't think that being dead is necessarily bad. But I won't get into this right now. So, coming back to the theme of inputs, which is let's not talk about death today. It also has the factor of consciousness and unconsciousness. These past few months, since I'm studying physiotherapy, I've been learning quite a lot about the brain. I'm also listening to many podcasts such as Andrew Huberman, where I learn about neuroscience every single day. I make my own research. I try to connect topics together. So all of this led me to understand that most of our functioning happens through our unconscious, which we cannot directly access. It is somewhere in the back of our mind, making sure that we live well, that we live an easy life. Think about it. If you had to think about every single action of yours, would you even be able to live? And to start this loop specifically, I want to already give you a beautiful example of an input and output. When we get created, when our first chromosomes appear and they create this small form of life, this embryon, that later develops into a human, a heart appears. And this heart gains a rhythm and contracts and relaxes, contracts and relaxes. And this is an input-output that goes through a circle, through a loop, our entire lives, from the moment we were born to the moment of our death, where a heart unfortunately stops beating. Everything around you right now that you can see is an input. And even by observing it, you are already switching its nature. You are changing it. It becomes from a neutral input to an input that holds some kind of a meaning to you, that changes slightly. And this can only be possible because of the exposure to these things, to the inputs around us. All of this depends of the perception types that we have in our repertoire, whether we do have vision, hearing, smell, taste, proprioception. Where we have all of those things, it does depend how we see things, how all of this exposure affects us. One thing in this specific spot that I want to highlight is the fact that whenever you spend time in a specific environment, just remember that it will have an impact on you as a person. Things and details that you may not even understand of that they hold some kind of an impact, some kind of a power, of a strength, will be affecting you. It's from this specific place that also comes the popular saying that probably most of you already know and should know, that you are the result of the 5 people you hang out the most around. I've experienced this a lot, and I have to say that it is the absolute truth. And that's why we have to be careful who we spend our time around. We may think that we are superior in some kind of way, and this specific thing has been on my mind for a long time right now. I've always thought that I was above others. Others were saying that some specific rules, guides were applying to all of the people, but people were thinking they were above those, so they discarded all of that. But I've learned that it is the truth. That is the truth. And I'm not above all of those things. Even though I have quite an awareness that is above normal level, I'd say, I'm still nowhere on the level that I should be, that we all should be. And right now, the problems of attention that arise through media, through overconsumption of things, they do create these lack of, they just create too much exposure, which at the end leads to us not to be able to focus and to be aware of things, to see life in a clear way. Many of us say we experience brain fog, we're not able to think anymore, and such things. While they can be corrected and rather easily by saying no to your phone, by taking back meditations. And by the way, meditations is a subject that I'll cover quite soon. It's here that I'm gonna tell you that this is the first video of a small series that I'm about to do. This is about inputs. Then it will be something about meditations or attention. Both of these will be covered. Then we'll have a video about emotions, all of the circle of them, how they work, because I do think this is a very important part. And lastly, something about how to think and how to see life itself. The last one will be more, well, it will talk about aspects that could be discussed, that could be critiqued. So, well, you do as you want with the last one. But with these, I will provide new frameworks, redefinitions of things, and connections that I'm sure you miss, at least some of them, you haven't thought about. One thing that interests me a lot these days is to find new words that I've ignored the existence of, or even words that I knew that I used, but I never thought about. Because our language is a magical thing. And every single word, sentence holds so much meaning behind it. We can all explore and learn about it so much. If we pick any sentence, any book, with the right type of knowledge, or with different exposures before reading it, we will always come to different conclusions. We'll be able to read and think of stuff that is not specifically written down, but something that holds value to us. So even in Christianity, for example, people that say that the Bible has all of the answers to your life, I think that can be true. Although I do not think that it is possible for one person, by living alone, to manage to read in the spaces between words all of the hidden meanings. I do think that still this is a journey to take and to be really careful of stuff, and you cannot stop learning at the end of the day. Now let's come back to these inputs and to the exposure. After this exposure, we have the absorption. And during this absorption is where the notion of strength of inputs comes into play. Before the exposure itself, the strength doesn't really matter, although it does slightly, because we have the capacity of focusing on some stuff. Our eyes, at least, and even our hearing, just our attention in general, it is limited. It does require energy, and it has to be specific. We cannot focus on multiple things at once. If you still think that you can multitask, that is false. For every single task that you take, your brain has to come back to it. If, let's say, you were writing a text, an essay, on the computer, and then you're doing research on a tablet, for example. You're writing then, and then your focus, all of your thoughts go well with this. But then when you switch to the research, your brain also has to disconnect from your first thought process, which was about writing the essay, and connect to this research. Well, that was just an example, but I hope you understand that we have a limited amount of attention. And I was talking about the absorption of things, and here is where the strength comes in. The strength is composed of multiple things. First, we have our personal nature. I do think that our personal nature, who we are right now, is made about probably half and half from the impact of the environment that had on to us, and just our genes, all of the connections of our molecules, our chromosomes, how our metabolism, how all of our inner stuff makes us think, how all of the hormones affect us. So we have that, and I believe that this is why a little aspect of it cannot be physically modified by us, because at least right now we cannot switch up all of our genes and, let's say, become taller magically like that. And then it also has the quality and the quantity of things, of inputs. By quantity, I mean if you are exposed to even an input that does not hold a lot of strength initially, if you have a repetitive exposure to it, it will gain in strength. So this is something that you have to consider. If, let's say, you think you can go to environments which could be negative to you, let's say you see a setting of a club where people are dancing, speaking nonsense, drinking, and you think that you won't be affected by all of this, and you do that a lot of the time. You do that, you repeat this process multiple times, and when they are not spaced by a lot, then this input will gain in strength, and it will at the end reach you and have its roots inside of you. It will definitely modify how you think, who you are as a person, at least a little bit. Then we have the quality of the input. The quality itself is a word that is hard to describe. And I'd say the quality is a mix of all of the other strengths. An input with a low quality could be experienced not often at all for a brief amount of time, something that does not relate to you, something that you do not even have time to realize, to understand. And then we have also the timing, which I already related with the quantity itself, and we also have emotion. Emotion is a very strong strength. Emotion itself, it is a broad thing that has different types. We have plenty of emotions. And when it managed to attach itself with a specific input, that input may gain a very high amount of strength. These emotions are possible to regulate through awareness of them. And one thing, your emotions, that I want to mention right now and not afterwards, is that we as humans are supposed to feel them. And for example, if you think that it is good to completely forget them, push them aside, I would strongly advise against that. It is better to feel them, to take your time to get exposed to that emotion, to see how it is affecting you. But in the same time, you must realize that this specific emotion just hit you. And whether it is bad, let's say you got angry, or even good, if you're ecstatic, make sure to not make an important decision, for example, when you are experiencing these, because they will affect you. They will affect how you think and your decision making itself too. Now, let's continue with the input loop, which, of course, does include this decision making itself. After the absorption, we have two possible paths. The first one is directly to incorporation. This path is more often. It happens more often. While the other path goes through dormancy and then possibly an activation with a catalyst. To explain this, well, we can get exposed to some input. Let's say your father or someone important to you, just anyone, even just a book or something, tells you some message that seems like it could hold some value, but you do not understand it immediately. Then it may still stick to your mind. And then someday, when you learn about other stuff, when your brain gets more connections between things, more of an understanding of the entire universe, of who are you, of how everything works, then someday, maybe some word, some action, some vision of yours, some dream, anything, will give a spark that will ignite that previous input you had a while ago and activate it. Here's where you feel like you realize something, like something clicked together. I had myself plenty of these moments. The more you do of self-analysis, the easier it becomes to arrive to these. Although at one point, it switches again. It becomes difficult to reach them because you know a little bit too much. Anyways, after either that activation of input or the incorporation, they both connect together to, to the incorporation itself. I meant by from absorption or activation to incorporation. Then from incorporation, again, we have two paths. The first path appears more often. This one is related with our unconscious or our subconscious. We have these supraliminal and subliminal inputs. I wouldn't say that it is important to really dig into these. All you have to know that in this specific route, the input just directly enters you. It enters your brain, and it might affect you in a small way, but you won't even recognize its effect. While the other branch from incorporation goes through, this one is conscious. It happens when you are conscious, when you are thinking about stuff. It goes through belief creation, which then leads to decision making. Of course, that decision making may not seem like something that is actually happening, but even if, let's say, you have a new belief, let's say you now think that you can knock on a door by leaving your elbow extended, just like this, instead of doing the old-fashioned way with the elbow bent, like that. Well, let's say you learn that, but you do not apply it immediately. It still will affect your future decisions. And now, if let's say you encountered that specific situation, this thought, this belief that you now got will enter your mind. Of course, it may stay dormant if it's something that you are not using, or if it's something that you simply do not understand that it's something that does not connect properly with the knowledge that already exists in your framework. And this decision making, these beliefs, all of those things connect themselves to the output. So we arrived at that place. We went from the input that enters in us, everything that we see, that everything that we experience through our senses, or anything that happens inside of us, then gets through many of these, and it gets to an output that might immediately go back through this process and become an input, or it may just stay like that for a while. After that output is what creates our present state. And here is where I want to touch onto some topics that may not be that important, but I do think are interesting to at least mention and to give a little bit of thought about it. The first thing is the illusion of control. The illusion of free will. If you believe in this framework that I just presented, I do think that you will agree with me that we do not have complete free will. We do not have absolute freedom, since all of the aspects that are unconscious to us, everything that happens inside of us and that do affect our conscious, which is just a very small part of our daily lives. Well, just by thinking about it, you can see that it is made of the uncontrollable, of the unpredictable. We still can influence it in some minor ways. For example, let's say we do live in the same environment for a long time. If we are used to things being that way, if we're eating the same food every time, then we do get used to these inputs. And it does seem like they do not affect us much. But still, we cannot control everything in ourselves. And if we cannot control even a little thing, it will affect us in even a tiny bit. Yeah. And even just because of that, I would say that we do not have free will. That's not a bad thing, though. I think that we are still who we are. We are the baggage of all of the inputs we collected, everything that has been processed in us. We are the result of all of that. We still have our entire future to go. We still can make choices. And I think that we cannot come close to this absolute freedom. I think that if we get as far from it as possible, I actually think that this way we come closer to liberation, which I think is a term that in our case could be used. The other illusion is the illusion of purity. Some inputs that you may think they do not hold a lot of value, they do. They absolutely do. Here is something that I want you to just put your attention on, is all of the media, all of the advertisements specifically. All of those inputs that are not necessary to you, but still that get into contact with you, will affect you. And if possible, as a piece of advice, just in the evening time and nighttime before bed, really try to pick the content you consume, the things you do. Because at that time is where you're the most vulnerable. It's where your brain is the most tired, all of your critical thinking goes a little bit down, and everything can reach a deeper level in you without you even noticing, without you understanding what is happening. And it will have an effect on you. It will set its teeth into you. So be just careful. I'm trying to do that myself right now, just limiting the input sources before bed and creating new ones, such as being grateful for your life, taking a few spare minutes before going to bed, thinking about what you got to live up to this point, where you might lead tomorrow. Just be grateful for right now. One thing And probably the last one for today's video that I want to speak on is a possibly new framework of how you see time. Usually we see time as past, present, and future. Something interesting about the present is that our perception actually takes time. Less than a second, but still does. So, in a way, when we talk about our present, it never happens. Our present is always the past. But here, in our society, we of course do need to respect schedules, time itself. We do need to know that in the future something like that will happen. In the past something happened. Right now we must do something. A lot of people say that being present is the best thing you can do. And sometimes when we are on a high anxiety level, we simply are rather present because we do not have a choice. If we fear something, we cannot think of other stuff. We cannot look at the future, look at the past. We have to look what's in front of us and try to do something about it. And when we are forced to do so, well, sometimes we just have to face it. We do not have any options to go in another way. But I think that this is not something that is good. I think being present is good when you do that in a specific way, which is by being present by integrating all of the times together. When you, for example, are aware of all of your past, when you have no worries about it, when it forms who you are right now, and you can either remember something and live it in the present, and you can also do that by already connecting to some point in the future that you want to reach. If you do believe that you will achieve something, and you really put all of your time, and you like believe in it, you have faith in it, and you adjust who you are right now to the person of your future to be clearer. Let's say you have an image of yourself in, let's say, a year, and if you integrated that image, who you believe you could be then, to right now, doing that with things that you can control, of course, not certain aspects, let's say money that you don't have right now, but at least with the beliefs, with your behavior. If you do that, you can already be living the future and therefore make it realize itself, make it happen. And in the same time, you are carrying all of your past, which you're happy about. You're doing all of that in the present, and you can completely forget about all of the other stuff. Of course, we cannot be fully present all of the time by not paying attention to our future, because our body is in a physical form. We do have some needs. We do need food. We do need sleep. We do need a lot of stuff, and we have to take care of our own health. But if those needs are fulfilled, then you can take some time to meditate, for example. And if not meditate, to just live, to maybe do something that you love. And one of the most important things, I would say, is to be able to enjoy. And by enjoy, I mean simply live presently in everything that you do. If, let's say, you are coming back from work, or if you are heading to some event, some place that you are seeking to get some value from, even in the space of that journey, theoretically, I'd say you should be able to feel as good as when you reach your destination. This is something I'm working on myself right now too. I don't think that it's easy to reach, but I really do think that it's worth trying. Well, I think today we covered about everything that I wanted to share about this input-output loop. As a last thing, I would say you have to make sure that you recognize the inputs that surround you, that you seek greater awareness, that you try to prime yourself with inputs that boost who you truly admire, a version of you which you would truly admire, a version of you that follows your conscience, that goes through all of the process of discernment, and that you learn to love being alive and love be living. I think that's the reason why we should all learn about these inputs and how they affect our lives. Well, this will be it for today's video. This has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I hope I performed a bit better. I'll be trying to improve all of the time for the next videos too. So I hope you understand some of the flaws that I have in my communication style and my sharing style. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.